Alright, so there's some new stuff to explain here. Here's our bedroom area, the interior. And you can see we haven't finished that wall, and we haven't taken apart or redone this wall yet. This is our little loft area above the cab. So there's where you drive. And basically what I wanted to show you, this is something that we knew better than to have made the mistake of doing. But mistakes happen, and so I wanted to share. Really, the work is beautiful. I mean, the joints look great. I don't really have any complaints, but if there's one thing on a project like this, rebuilding an RV, that you don't want to mess up, it's making sure that your exterior aluminum seams line up the way they're supposed to. And so, like I said, we knew better than to make this mistake, but as you can see, it doesn't quite line up perfect. There's like it's hard to see with the sun shining right in the phone. Sorry, there you go. You can see this piece of aluminum here is supposed to come up against this wood, which has been, shaved off to angle, and this is the wood. This is factory. Under this, right here is factory. So this aluminum is supposed to come up to this aluminum, and you can see it's about a 1/4 inch or so gap there. And as you go further down, it gets a little bit bigger. It never exceeds much more than a 1/4 inch. But basically, this is our board, this white board. You can see it's kilsed. That's why it's white, and it causes a 1/4 inch gap here. So, worst case scenario, and I've figured out that this isn't going to happen for us, or else I would have taken that out. Worst case scenario, if you make a mistake like that, is the piece of aluminum for your roof won't go back on the correct way. So if you don't want to risk having your aluminum roof not fit, when you go to put it back on, then be extremely careful anytime you're building in here that you don't build outside of your limitation, which is the exterior aluminum. So in any case, I'll show you how we're going to remedy that situation. There were pieces of aluminum flashing, let's see, pieces of this basically in the wall, but like 4-inch by 8-inch type stuff, and varying sizes, but I've put it to work on a few different applications. As you can see, this is actually not that, this is galvanized right here, so it's strong. But this is actually 3 layers. There's the galvanized, and then there's 2 layers of that aluminum flashing that was inside my wall. And as you can see, my dad did this, he did it really well, to get this all flat and level again. So this is actually the only frame board out of all this that you see that isn't installed yet. So this has been kilsed everywhere except for on the top. So it's actually kilsed and completely installed. I just need to put kills on the top. All the edges and the underside were kilsed. And all that's installed except for this. So what I'm doing to fix that outside situation is I'm taking more of this that was in the wall. It was actually acting as shear support since there were no studs in this. The foam is actually what held it together. So I'm using that flashing since I'm putting studs in. I don't need that flashing for what it was originally for anymore, and so I'm scoring it, which you know what that is, but I'll go over here and show you what we've done. We started, like I said, with big sheets of, it looks like this, but basically 4 times wider, 3 times wider. And what I've done is draw my lines, go up to where I need it, take my measurements, draw my lines, and then line up exactly where I want to score it with my 2-foot level. And then once it's there, you can press down on your level to keep it tight and just score your razor all along here 4 or 5 or 6 times with a nice sharp razor. And aluminum is soft enough that you can just bend it back and forth with pliers. I use clamps to get any type of spurs that might come off. Just clamp it, put it in a nice C-clamp like this one here, and it'll smush it right down, no spurs, no nothing. So basically we've gone from those big sheets to these unfinished pieces, and then from these unfinished pieces to this finished deal. And I'll show you, sorry about that, I'll show you what we're going to do with this. Basically my concern, you'll see we're actually going to use Eternabond type tape, which is super good stuff, and it's probably excessive that I'm even worried about this. But what I'm going to do, in case water ever does destroy my tape over time, I'm going to put this piece of flashing under here right up to the angle that I need. And I'm sorry that the sun is kind of blurring the view, but essentially it's going to keep it so that if any water gets under my trim, under my tape, under everything, and gets onto this lip, rather than it crawling under my bed right here, you know, dripping, if this flashing wasn't here, it would just drip along the inside of my tape and right under there, and we would have wet again. So basically I'm just letting this piece of flashing exceed that a little bit, and then I'm going to use Eternabond tape on the whole seam, which I've done on the other seams, and I'll show you what that looks like real quick because it's good stuff. I recommend it. So this is essentially tar on the inside and aluminum on the outside. That's what the tape is. But you can see I used a 6-inch wide piece to do this section, and that's a trim joint just like the one you just saw on the other side. And then another piece of trim will go on here. Sorry, that's an aluminum siding joint, and then the tape goes on and that'll be painted, and then the trim goes on top, and that'll be the finished look, and it'll be more waterproof than it's ever been. So hopefully that video helped you out a little bit anyway, at least details what we're working on right now. Okay, so what we did today is we took all the staples out of here and peeled this back, peeled this aluminum back like that, and used the socket wrench to screw in 3 screws from our 1x6 right here into our plywood bed frame. So from this 1x6 into the plywood bed frame, and we did that underneath the aluminum, and then we closed the aluminum back up with construction adhesive under here and construction adhesive all under here, and closed it back up with screws, and then a piece of trim still goes on here like that, and we'll do butyl tape under the trim because that's what was on there before. And also I'm going to do Eternabond, as I've said many times, or it's actually a brand called Quick Roof tape, on all of these seams as I've done on the back. So here's that. Here's we had a little bit of a gap here. I may as well explain this. We had a little bit of a gap between our aluminum, and so I went kind of overboard and decided to make little aluminum flaps that close it all off. They go under this piece but over this piece, so if any water did get through our tape and our trim, it wouldn't be able to get it to the inside of the trailer. So decided to do that even though it's probably overkill. And that's done on the other side too.